Good evening and welcome to the November meeting of the Penfield Historic Preservation Board. I'm Tom Combs, Chairman. I'll call the meeting to order here at 5:35. First item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the October 3rd meeting. Did everybody have a chance to read them? Any comments, edits? Okay, we have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, and a second.
I'll second.
Okay, and if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The minutes from last time are approved. All right, I'm going to switch the agenda around here. We have two items with Matt and Debra Sharp, the owners of 2152 5 Mile Line Road. And because I think the first one is it's going to take a bit longer, I think we'll start with the second one. So maybe if you folks could join us at the front table. Thank you. So we wanted to talk about the garage first. So what I thought I'd do is let you take us through the pictures. Are the pictures available, Shannon?
Yes.
And talk us through the situation of the garage. The floor is yours.
Okay. Where to start? Let's start at the foundation. There is none. There's nothing there. It was built on dirt. It's sinking into the ground, probably 4 to 6 inches on one side. The rafters, the studs, everything's falling apart. There's nothing salvageable here. Even the way it was constructed, the rafters themselves were spliced together. It's you know, there's nothing here that's...
It looked like you had a little visitor underneath it, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to me, the pictures sort of spoke for themselves. Rest of the board, any comments, questions about the garage?
I have a few overview photos too,
Oh,
to
good.
kind of give you a overview of the whole thing. So that's from one angle, from the front, and then from the other side there.
Yeah. I did have a question. The building behind it, is that a keepable structure? Is it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's very solid. It's all black. It's in great condition.
Yeah, is that a garage?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I did notice that there's a driveway that goes out to Belvedere, it goes out the other side.
Yes,
So that's what you'll use for that garage?
correct.
Yeah. No questions, comments, concerns? Need a motion?
I'll make a motion.
So moved, and a second? Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the demolition of the garage?
Aye. Aye.
All right. Okay. We are done with that. Okay, let's move on to the second item on the agenda, which was the first agenda item, which is the follow-up to several months now of discussion about the changes that were made to the house. I'm going to do a bit of a recap here, and then others on the board, if I get something out of time or whatever, correct me, and we'll move ahead. But just to recap, at our August meeting, this board, the Preservation Board, denied the request by Matt and Debra for certain changes to the house at 2152. So subsequent to that, Shannon drafted a letter to the zoning board, and that described, there were 10 items that she described that the homeowners were undertaking at the house. And those, I think, well, I'm pretty sure this memo that she wrote is, everyone has a copy of it. The items are A through J, and I'll go through those in just a second. So of those 10 items, the board the board's denial actually spoke to, I'll call it 4.5 of them, and I'll speak to which ones that we denied. And the other 5.5, the zoning board overturned what we've been calling a blanket denial, that what this board did was a blanket denial of all of those items that were listed. And what the zoning board said was that we didn't have an appropriate review of everything that was on the list, which was fair to say, because subsequent to our denial, there was significantly more information provided by the Sharps to the zoning board, and I think we've all have that too. So they kicked it back to us for a review of the items that we had denied. So I thought that maybe a place to start was, again, with the pictures that you had given to Shannon, or Shannon had a visit to the house, and there's a good description of what's going on the inside, because that does affect, obviously, in the case of the windows particularly, what's happening to the outside. All right, so this is a shot of the front, obviously.
And these were taken back in July or August, just for reference.
Okay. And at that point, I think all of the external work was completed.
I believe so, yeah, just
Yeah.
about.
Okay. All right, well, as we're going through these, let me go to the list of, I'll start with the items that were sort of approved by default. I'll use that term because we hadn't specifically called them out at our discussion, and then specifically.
Hey, Tom, do you have the pictures that were presented when we had the original application? Because the siding wasn't all done and the windows weren't all in when they first came in.
Yeah, I do recall that, of course. I don't know if those are available, Shannon? Can we go back that far?
I don't know if I have them with me. I don't think I have them.
Yeah. Those, if you recall, for our board, the siding was up maybe 2 or 3 feet on the north side of the house, and things weren't completed at that point in time. And that was the first thing that we had to look at, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that was at the May meeting.
Yeah.
And if my memory's right, that's when we asked to have the work stopped.
That's not for us to do at that point. That was for, I don't know who does that.
That was when I checked in with the town attorney on that. And by the time that we got confirmation and heard back, like the building department, myself and, my supervisor, by the time that we heard back, the siding was complete.
So I believe at that point, it was the time that the building permit was actually granted. It was after the fact.
Right, yes.
Was when the siding was partway up, and I don't know if you remember that more specifically.
I'm pretty sure that the permit is stamped. Was it?
I don't have it with
I
me.
have it in here, April 20th or
Yeah,
May 20th.
sometime late April, early May.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, when the town was made aware.
When, if you need that specific date, do you want that specific date when?
No,
building-
I was just recollecting that it was pretty far along when you got the building permit.
I don't think that it was that.
It's all timeline, it's all in
It's,
your report.
Yeah.
yeah, it's written in here as to when exactly it was in the letter of intent to the zoning board. It dates
Yeah.
specifically.
All right, well, we don't need the exact date
Okay.
for tonight. So what, the items going through that were approved effectively by the zoning board are the following. The movement of the stairs from the north side to the front of the house. the removal of the vent stack, which was previously used for a wood-burning stove fireplace. There was no chimney, I take it, in the house.
Oh, there was. It wasn't for wood burning, though.
It was, say, I couldn't hear you.
There was a chimney in the back of the house.
Okay, well, I guess we weren't aware of that. Only of the,
It's where the
The vent
furnace-
stack on the
The
south side.
furnace had vented out that.
okay. Replacing of existing vinyl windows with new vinyl windows, and the addition of the gable or the dormer that's on the east side, which expanded your upstairs. And then the two walkways, one from the front porch to the driveway on the south side, and from the back porch to the driveway. So those items were approved. What the denial that we made and then was subsequently kicked back to us for tonight's discussion was the removal of the aluminum siding and the replacement of that with the vinyl. And then, and carrying that through to the underneath the front porch, where it was board and batten style. The next three sort of grouped together, all in the window category, removing a window on the north side and adjusting the size of two other windows on the north side. And then the removal of three on the south side, which I don't think we have a picture of, but that would be, it'd be good if we could see what originally looked like on the south side. Yeah, so they're all covered at that point. So I think what I'd like to do is have you take us through the information that you provided to the zoning board, which we didn't have when we met, but it describes in a lot more detail what you wanted to do and what you ultimately did, and in a lot of cases, why you did that.
Well, we removed the aluminum siding. It was not in good condition. And we wanted maintenance-free vinyl siding on the home. So we looked at what was in the neighborhood, and we said, everything is vinyl in the neighborhood. Not everything, but there's a lot of vinyl in the neighborhood, and we also chose a color that was similar to other homes in the area, and installed that vinyl siding.
What you said, the aluminum was in bad shape. What does that mean? Is it dented or?
Then it's falling apart.
Falling apart, cracked. Not something that we wanted to have on the house. The house, it needed so much renovation and construction that it wasn't worth putting the money into a house that needed that much extensive work and then leaving aluminum siding that wasn't in good condition.
I guess in point of fact, you wouldn't, if you were covering up the windows, you couldn't cover them with aluminum anyway. And aluminum on the dormer up top had to be covered with something.
You can see in the pictures that I attached that it's similar colors to many of the houses in the area.
And anybody jump in if you have other questions. I was interested in your description of the siding of the house and the crookedness, and is the reason why you maybe didn't choose hardy board. What was the situation on the side of the house?
Well, it's 100 years old. Nothing was straight in this house. So hardy board fastens to the substrate. Vinyl siding hangs on it. So you can say fluff a lot of things, inconsistencies,
With
and
vinyl.
hide that, and everything looks straight and good. If you were to nail hardy board to that, it would not look good.
So what was the substrate? Was it just
It was
wood,
tongue and groove pine.
tongue and groove?
I think a lot of those homes were just built with scrap lumber and shipping containers that were pulled from somewhere and kind of cobbed together.
So you didn't think it would take a nail or a screw?
Well, the time and effort it would take, and it'd still be crooked. You can hide a lot of inconsistencies with vinyl over hardy board. And hardy board is not a maintenance-free product,
Is that what?
a maintenance-free product.
Did you look at wood at all?
No.
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 We wanted maintenance-free.
Board, any comments, questions with respect to that? That decision with respect to the crookedness and the unevenness of the house seems to carry through to the porch discussion also. I mean, how bad is it? How slanted is the porch?
I'm glad you asked. If we put a level on the front porch from one end to the other, it was about 3 inches. So when you're hanging vinyl siding, you have to carry the consistent lines around the corners of the house. So if we were to level our siding around the corners and carry that through, if you look on the front lower portion of the porch there, right in the front by the ground, at that point, from the far corner to the stair railing is about 3 inches out of level. So if we
Let's say
carried
From where to where?
the railing to the far corner of the porch is about 3 inches out of level. So if you carried your siding level across, the panel would go from 3 inches to nothing. So in that situation, you have to go with what's good with your eyes, not what's level. So by doing that, you're not going to be able to match up your corners and carry your siding around so that it all matches. So you can keep everything consistent and look good with your eye, but then you have to match your corners. So my solution, or I wouldn't say, and maybe it is the only solution, so the only solution would be to put that beautiful board and batten siding on that front porch.
And that, you didn't have the same issue on the apron of the porch?
Well, see, because I didn't have to carry it around on the porch, I was able to drop that panel and make it look good with your eye. But if I carried that around the corner, the panels wouldn't have lined up. So that's why I did that.
Team, comments? Okay, thank you. The stairs and the railings, we also had a concern with the composite decking, and it was the Trex or something that you were using that. And the vinyl railings that were not what you would do with a preservation structure. And the windows, can you take us through the removal and alteration of the windows?
Do you want to talk about the stairs?
Well, the stairs, in terms of the location of the stairs.
No, what, the composite decking and the railing?
Well, the stairs are the composite also, and the railings are the vinyl. So, okay, I think we've got that picture.
I think they want to comment on it, is what she's saying.
I'm asking
I'm
if you
sorry.
need to comment on it, if you need to know why that
Oh, sure, of course.
chose
yeah.
it, because it's, simply because it's maintenance-free. And when you go around the town, there are plenty of other examples of vinyl railing and composite decking in the historic district.
Okay. The windows.
The windows changed in size or removed because of what was happening with the interior design of the house. Specific areas for the entryway, there was a window taken out right in the entryway right there because I wanted to be able to have a bench or coat hooks right when you walk in, and if there's a window right there, you can't put that there. There's no closet in the entryway of the house. So I was thinking, how are we going to,
Yeah, so,
Right there.
so just to the right side of the front door.
Right,
There
there's
was
no-
a window.
right, there's no closet in that area.
Okay.
The window at the top of the stairs was changed, which we spoke about before for safety reasons. Didn't want a full window, large window coming down the stairs, kids running into it. Other windows removed downstairs because we wanted to be able to put a TV on the wall. If you have there's not a lot of multiple walls in that area. We wanted to be able to place a TV on a wall or a couch on a wall, or I wanted to put a china cabinet, a hutch there. If there's windows everywhere and there aren't other walls to place things, just limits where
So
you
this
can arrange
is-
things.
This is the living room, and
And the-
so those two windows there are
That's
what we're
the-
showing to the
It'd
south.
be the
side.
south end of the wall. yeah.
Now, is that a little window between them?
That's where the fireplace stovepipe was coming through.
Oh, okay. So there's a third window, is that in another room?
Upstairs,
Mhm. Yep. So that would be the master bedroom. You need a wall for the bed to go on, and it's simply
didn't
the
want,
only wall that.
we
the
didn't
bed
want
can go on.
windows right there, above it, front of it.
Okay, I think that gets through the list that I had. Any comments, questions from the board?
Has there been a rough framing inspection on this yet?
Yes.
I'm assuming it didn't pass then?
It passed, pending all the approvals, and I didn't complete the inspection.
Okay.
Matt, was all of the framing done when that
Yes.
inspection was completed? Okay. So my supervisor completed that inspection and passed it.
Is that what it looked like when he passed it?
I assume so. Yeah, I believe Matt said all the framing was finished at the time.
It looks like from the pictures, all those wall studs are just spliced together. There's no load path from anything.
That's a non-bearing wall.
Well, the other ones aren't either.
We're not done, all the,
Okay.
there's still more inspections to be done, so we'll be looking at the more of the interior, so.
By the way, I know you had, at the zoning board, you had asked about being able to carry on the inside, and I think they said everything was okay to do that as long as you didn't get into where it affected the outside appearance. Did they get that approval?
Yes, yep, I completed a plumbing inspection last week
Yeah.
for them, and that's when I took those interior photos of the window changes. So, yes, they're totally fine to keep working. They've just been cautioned, of course, because we don't have approvals for the work on the exterior. Just be mindful, just not to hopefully have to do more work than they have to, because we're uncertain about the future of the approvals and things.
Yeah. I just want to make a couple of comments because you've had several places, several times now, you've referenced other properties that you've seen vinyl siding or composites on the decking. And I can't speak to all those because they didn't necessarily come before us for a review or approval. Every case that we look at is taken for its own merits. There are any number of reasons why something might be approved or not approved. So without trying to speak to all of the examples that you gave us, we did see, one of them was a house that we spoke about earlier this year, where you said there's vinyl on it. I think it might even be the same color, more or less, as what you've chosen.
Yes.
And that particular house already had vinyl siding on part of it. So we reviewed it and we said that, it doesn't seem silly to make these people change what's already there. So we said, okay, go ahead and finish it with that color that you've chosen. So, there are reasons why we do things like that. And it's to accommodate, and it's try to not necessarily cause issues for the homeowner. But we have sort of that dual responsibility. We do try to accommodate where it's appropriate, but we're responsible for the historic look and preservation of that district. That's why we're here.
Well, I don't think that anything that we did is way out of lines with what is already there in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and I think in fairness to us, that's kind of 6 or 8 months too late. I mean, when there might have been any number of things we could have talked about, compromised on. We can't say at this point because the work is done. So I haven't heard anybody suggest that the property doesn't look 100 times better than it did. Now, I have a very good memory of what it looked like over the past few years, and it was an eyesore. And it looks a lot better now, but that, again, it's not the point of the Preservation Board. We're here
And to speak to that, we didn't purposely try to sidestep the Preservation Board. We truly and honestly did not know that this was in a historic district when we purchased and started working on the home.
Yes, I heard you say that at the zoning board, and our simple answer to that is that if the building permit had been requested in advance of anything being done, you would have been told, oh, by the way, you're in the historic district.
Well, it was the third encounter with the building inspectors before they informed us that it was in a historic district.
I can't speak to when they told you, but the
I'm
first.
just trying to let you know that we weren't purposely trying to sidestep the historic board.
Yeah, okay. Now, for the board, we can either look at these items individually for votes for approval or not, or we can do them as a group. Since I haven't heard a lot of discussion, maybe it's easiest to simply take a vote on all of these items.
Do we have to make a decision tonight, Tom, or do we have time to talk about it as a group?
I think we need to make the decision tonight, because next week is the zoning board, and depending on, of course, on what we decide here tonight, they may need to go back to the zoning board, so we don't want to delay that.
I would just thought maybe I'd add in a couple comments in that, again, as everyone said, this house does look 100 times better than it did before. So, no one's saying it doesn't look good, but as Tom kind of mentioned, the purpose of the Historic Preservation Board is to really try to do our best to maintain that character of the historic district. Now, there is quite a bit of vinyl throughout the district, which may or may not have come before the board. I think mostly did not. Tom explained why the house, I think it's across the street, was approved for the vinyl. But in this case here, I think it's important to note that the aluminum siding that was there, although not original, could have actually been historic depending on how long it was on the home. So even with that, I wouldn't say, if you had deterioration of that siding, that you wouldn't have been approved by our board to be able to replace it with something. But just, I think sometimes people confuse original and historic, so what's appropriate on historic buildings, and it doesn't have to be what's original. It can be something different as long as it's within keeping with the character. I think in this case, though, and I would say this goes far above our board, but in general, across the board with historic preservation, whether you're looking at a local level like ours, the state level, the federal level, I would say rule of thumb is that vinyl is never an appropriate material on a historic building. So I just don't think that even if you had come to us before work started, we wouldn't have come to the compromise to approve vinyl siding here. My day job is working in preservation as well, so I've seen hardy board used on plenty of properties, and no property is plumb 90 degrees. So I have a little bit of a hard time understanding why that wouldn't have been able to be used, because I've seen it used thousands of times on historic properties, and it looks great. And I also think it's really important to note that while you can do whatever you want to the interior for what you need to do, unfortunately, our board has to think about the exterior. And I think in this case, removing all the windows on the one side of the house so that you can put a TV there or a hutch or a bed, I mean, my TV sits in front of my window because I have so many windows in my house too. I don't have any walls to put it on. A bed can go in front of a window. It doesn't stop the furniture from being able to be there. And then the window that's on the stair landing, so halfway down the stair there, that you basically took out the lower sash of it. I think I understand the safety concerns, except I think there's things that if our board had been part of this process ahead of time, well, we don't review what you do to the interior, we could have had that discussion because it affects the exterior. And I think there's things that you can do on the interior to create more safety there if that's what you're concerned about. But there's a lot of homes, even new homes being built that have windows on a stair landing like that. So I just don't know if that's something we could have compromised on either. So I guess what I'm saying to the board and to the applicant, the homeowner, is that these things that we already denied, I think some of the other work that was done, like putting on the almost full width dormer on the back and removal of a chimney that I guess we didn't know that was there until tonight. And I think that's part of the problem with not having a complete full application of the scope of work, is that now we're realizing as this gets kicked back to us that we never got to review the whole scope that happened on the exterior either.
I think if you were to go back to the beginning, it was just us truly not knowing and communication, and there were just a lot of back and forths that.
Right, but I think after the first night that we reviewed this, we did go back and our board did ask for more information about all the work that took place on the exterior, so that
And
there's still.
provided what we thought we wanted.
Okay. So I think there are things that were done that our board has already by default approved because we didn't take issue with it, like the back dormer being built out, which changes the roof line, but it's on the back of the home, so it's not as big of a deal. Those kind of changes are a little bit more acceptable with historic buildings. What else? The changing of the front porch stair, I think, we don't really have an issue with the fact that you changed the location. It's actually a better location, I would say, to be aligned with the front door coming up the front. But I think that some of these things that we have already kind of approved by default are those things that, in my mind at least, would have been my compromise with you guys on the project. So those things we are letting go instead of trying to make changes to those or find out why those were done. We've let those go. So I think at this point, for me at least, I don't see how we compromise any further on the siding or the windows or the stair railing, because there's already been enough other things done that we're approving.
Okay, thank you, Megan. We're going to need a motion.
Before we do that, we do have a guest. Do you want to speak about this
Oh.
property?
Oh, okay, I wasn't aware of that, thank you.
I'm in favor of everything they've done.
If you can, can you come up to a microphone?
And-
Sorry.
And introduce yourself.
Jan Richards, 2159 5 Mile Line Road. I've lived in my house 31 years, been looking at this house for 31 years, and I feel that I am in favor of their upgrades, their changes. The house still looks like a historical house. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we need a motion.
I have a question. Just, so if we move ahead and don't provide, a C of A for the siding or whatever, do they go back to the zoning board? So what is the process here?
Process, and correct me if I'm wrong, if we uphold the denials, they will go to the zoning board next week, I think it is, or the week after?
The third Thursday of the month.
Okay, so it's coming right up. And the zoning board can either uphold what we've done, and in which case, I think the remedy for that is the town court. Or the zoning board can overrule us and say, you know, we hear you, but we're going to give them approval.
Thank you.
I think we'd like, or at least I would like time as the board to discuss it. Is it possible we could do an executive session real quick, or?
I think
I-
any discussion needs to be on the
It
record
needs to be on the record.
and at the, for public information.
All right, do we have someone?
Any other questions, discussion?
So our approval now is for everything?
So we can do it one of two ways. We can break it down by item based on the outstanding concerns, or we can do a blanket approval, whatever someone would like to put a motion forward for, whatever you guys feel comfortable with.
Any thoughts? You want to do a blanket approval, you want to go through each one?
I want to hear from the board.
I'll go blanket approval.
Like it?
So question, when we say blanket approval, is that we're going to approve all of the work?
It would be approval or denial. We just, a motion covering
Okay.
all of the items that are up for concern tonight, that are part of the revisiting to you guys from the zoning board. So that would be just a motion, not, you know, whoever wants to take that on. Or if you guys don't feel comfortable and you have mixed opinions, you feel like you want to approve or deny some of it, then we can go item by item. It's whatever the majority feels comfortable with and whoever feels comfortable making a motion.
And when I thought about that, it was that it's really it's one project. I mean, the vinyl and the windows affect the vinyl. It's kind of the same thing. I don't know how we can separate them.
Yeah, I think it would more be like the vinyl siding, then maybe the porch railings, then the windows would be the way that we would break it up if you guys wanted to. Or if you were okay with even some of the window removal and changes and not others. So maybe we should go item by item just because we're having some discussion about it.
Okay, is everyone all right with that? Okay. All right, then, with respect to the first item, which is the removal of the aluminum siding and replacement with the vinyl, do we have a motion to approve or not?
I'll make the motion to approve.
To approve. And a second? Not hearing a second. We have another motion.
I guess I would make a motion to uphold the original denial of the vinyl siding, both on the sides of the home and the board and batten at the porch.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? So the motion is to uphold the denial from the last time. And all in favor?
Aye.
No.
And you are not in favor? I will also vote not in favor. Let's go to the next one is the,
Oh, before we go ahead, the motion is denied,
the
Just to be
motion.
clear.
Yes, I'm sorry.
because we have the majority.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay.
Do we need a separate one for the vertical board and batten?
Megan included the vinyl siding, the horizontal siding, and the board and batten vertical siding in her motion,
Okay, great.
right?
All right, The next one being the composite decking and the vinyl railings on the front porch. Do we have a motion there? I'm sorry, you,
Oh, I'm sorry, I just think I don't really have a problem with that at all, but, I mean, the siding is one thing, but really, I don't know.
I'll make a motion that piggybacks the first motion, that we approve we stay with the original disapproval. Is that right?
Yeah, denial.
And make a motion that we stay with the original denial on the vinyl railings and the plastic stair treads.
second to that motion?
I'll second.
And we have a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
No. So that passes with the upholding the denial. Okay, the windows, do we do those all together? Or try to parse those as well?
I feel like I could have been convinced of the window on the stairwell. I don't know, I almost grouped that one separately from the other windows that seemed like they were removed for more cosmetic reasons than anything else. So I don't know, I'd be happy to separate that one out, but,
That's fine.
We can do that.
We can do that.
That's
I
fine.
think it should be all the windows,
yeah.
You would prefer all?
yes.
Whoever would like to make a motion.
Yep, you make a motion one way or the other. Nick, you
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy either way, really. I mean, yeah, I mean, I'll file a motion to deny all the windows.
deny all? And second?
I think either, if I could build on his motion a little bit, I think the motion is that we uphold our previous denial
Of all the
of
window
the window
changes.
changes.
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'll take that as your second then, Chuck.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
No. Okay, that motion passes with the majority. And that covers it.
So at this point, the items that were still up for discussion tonight have been denied. The denial has been upheld by the Historic Preservation Board by majority vote for the vinyl siding, the horizontal vinyl siding, the board and batten vinyl siding, the vinyl railings on the porch, and the composite decking, and all of the window alterations. So at this point, you guys will be going back to the zoning board to appeal that decision specifically at their November meeting. And they will all get all of this information, all the zoning board members, and I will recommend that they all watch this meeting so they have the full information to make a educated decision.
Will you also be forwarding the applicant, the new information I gave you to them as well?
Yes, everything that you gave me, we will forward to them. And then also, but the garage demolition was approved, so I will be filling out and giving you guys the certificate of appropriateness for the garage demolition.
Okay, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it. All right, we have a couple of informational items. One is with respect to the Clark Road barn. As we've talked about it before, Shannon and I are both on the committee which is speaking to the barn. The committee got a report from Torsia Structural Engineering a week or so ago And it wasn't just Torsia, they're backed up by an architectural firm, which I didn't recognize the name. It was considered, I think, by everybody to be a very comprehensive report. It showed some very extensive issues, kind of top to bottom with the barn. The roof, the siding, the foundation, flooring, doors and windows, a lot of issues. The good news was that much of the, what I'll call the superstructure, was, I think they used the term salvageable. It was in pretty decent condition. So they, and I won't try to go into the detail. I think they were going to post this somewhere on the web if you want to go into it. It's quite lengthy. I thought it was a very good report. They gave the town two rough estimates. One was for immediate stabilization of the structure, and that was in the $200,000 range. And then the other estimate was for rehabilitation, and that was just short of $1 million. And Torsia made it clear that their estimates, that they were very broad. I think they used the 25%, plus or minus. It was clearly an estimate. And they also made it clear that it was not what they were proposing or what they were giving in that estimate didn't make the structure useful for any particular purpose. So if it was going to be a storage facility, or if it was going to be I can't remember some of the things we talked about. There's nothing about utilities, electric, plumbing, heating, et cetera. There's nothing about fixing driveways and making parking available. So it was not an attempt to say for the town of Penfield it would be in this range. It was strictly for, in the first case, for stabilization, the second case to rehab it so that there wouldn't be further disintegration of the property. So that's kind of where we left it. The next step for the committee is to gather questions that they have with respect to the report. And Kerry Ivers is collecting those, and we will have a chance to talk to Carmen Torsia himself about those questions and to get some more detailed answers. I think that meeting may have been set later in the month. So that's the next step. And in the meantime, we will be looking at what other potential uses for the barn could be, because ultimately, obviously, that plays a part in what happens to it.
And I double-checked the conditions report is on the website under the Clark Road Barn Committee section of the website that has the full report, and it also has the presentation that we went through at the committee meeting.
Good, okay.
Were you able to convince the town to fix the tarp on the roof?
I know that they're fully aware of it. In fact, I think
They've been aware of it since they bought the building, and wondering if they fixed it. I haven't been by it, so.
I mentioned that, I can't remember if it was in the meeting or separately to Carrie, that they needed to get on that, and it needed to be a better quality tarp than what's been used, because I think we're on the third tarp. I did
So
say
I
that at the meeting.
think the discussion ended up is that the tarps are obviously not really working very well. So they were going to be looking into some other possibilities to protect the structure better while we are making these decisions. But hopefully these decisions are now moving along more quickly.
Well, the tarp's been bad since you guys bought the building. You're going to lose the building because of that. If that's the plan, then they should just demo it now. If it's the report that I read said that it was definitely worth salvaging, the foundation was good, and most of the beams are good. So if that's the case, we've been asking for months now to have the town fix that tarp on the roof, and the answer was, well, the highway superintendent retired or was gone and we couldn't do it. We have a town board member here, don't we, that could maybe go back and put some pressure on the town, because we need to figure this out. And you're also paying I thought, a fair amount of money monthly rental for that chain link fence that you put up there. Yeah, I don't think the town bought that. I think it's,
It's rented, yes.
right. So it just doesn't seem to make any sense to not fix the roof and continue on this. And I was a former board member on the board for one night because the town wouldn't let me go in to look at it. So we could have saved all this consultant fee, appraisals by just going in and looking at it.
I will take that concern back to the board.
Well, we appreciate that, but I think we've done that several times and haven't seen anything happen yet.
Well, I will be honest that at one point, I personally brought it up to the then head of DPW, so we have attempted to address it, but, I will bring up the concern that, there needs to be something more, reliable done to protect the structure.
Well, if we don't, I mean, I don't mean to harp on it, but if we don't do it now, you're going to come back and say, well, we can't go up there in the winter because it's not safe. So I think it needs to be a sense of urgency.
Can we leave it in your hands, Kevin? And Chuck,
Thank
just to address something you said, I think, unless I misheard you, you're suggesting fix the roof.
No, just another tarp.
Okay, all right, because
I didn't mean to fix the roof, no.
when I said the superstructure looked okay, there were issues with some of the beams in the roof on the south side, so it
I'll
can't-
be honest with you, Tom, I could see that from standing outside, so I don't think there's any question that the place needs work.
okay.
It's how long you're going to
No,
wait.
the report,
See if you're going to get to the point where it's going to collapse on itself before you try to fix it.
when you see the report, you'll see
I've seen
no one's
I've-
thinking it doesn't need help.
I've seen the report,
The whole report?
yes,
Oh, okay.
correct, yep.
Okay, so we appreciate the discussion about that. It is for a different committee, and we'll leave it with Kevin with respect to trying to get some action at the board level, the town board level.
And-
So our committee is a preservation board, right? And we are talking about preserving the barn, so I think we should have some input on it, not just say that it's another committee that does it.
Right.
That's not going to get it done.
But it's not a designated property, so. And
I didn't know that it had to be for us to get involved, that it be designated.
So basically, the committee asks for the Historic Preservation Board's input on certain items relating to it, and they have before. But because it's not designated, the Historic Preservation Board does not have purview over it. Of course, you guys can make comments and provide your insight, but the ultimate decision is up to suggestions from the committee, and then the ultimate decision is up to the town board.
I mean, I apologize, but I have to leave.
Okay,
The timing isn't the best, but thank you.
all right. Thanks, Kevin. We'll thank you in advance. I also put on my notes here if there's anything with respect to the Clark House, but I believe that's, there's nothing new with respect to the house there.
No, I think we'll have completed or 90% completed drawings by the end of the year, and then it will go out to bid.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and we have a special guest. Kathy has brought to our attention an interesting house that she'd like to share with us.
Well, this house also isn't designated landmark, but I'm very concerned about what's going to happen to it. 1778 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road, it's not officially named the Harrington Baker Winter House, but that's what the past two, my predecessors as historian have called it. And so I've done a write-up, what information I could find about it. Revolutionary War veteran, Harrington Baker, purchased the property that it's built on in 1807 directly from Daniel Penfield. So it goes back, the property goes back that far. Either he or his son David, who was a veteran of the War of 1812, built the house. I've seen two different dates, 1810, 1819. Either one of them, it's one of the oldest houses that are still standing in Penfield. Both of the Bakers are buried in Oakwood Cemetery, so they stayed with us. They're still with us 200 years later. There were a number of other residents through the years. The most recent ones before the current one were Penfield artists John and Lucille Winter. When they sold the property, we were able to go, and the realtor opened it, that we could go in with Jim Costello, who worked for the town before he retired, and we were able to take photographs in the house, and that's some of what's attached. The only one I didn't include was my husband took one of me standing by a tree, which I didn't think you needed. But there's some very interesting and unique parts of the building. It's, first of all, it's stucco-covered stone. I don't know if it was always stucco, because I know there are other stone houses in the area that were later covered with stucco. They were originally stone, and then stone must have gone out of vogue, and then they covered it with stucco. So I don't know if this was always covered or not. But there's one of the large cooking fireplaces in the basement that's still there. One of the support beams in the basement, and I believe that's in one of the photographs, is basically a tree, which also indicates the age of the house. And the photo that's directly under the one with the support beam shows this really cool niche that was built. That room, I think it was something like a root cellar, because it was totally dark in there, and then there's that niche, so I figured it was probably when you came down with your lantern and you were going in there to get your potatoes or apples, whatever you had stored, you needed a place to put your lantern so you could see. Otherwise, there would be no light in the room. The other photograph on that page shows the width of the one interior doorway. And then probably my favorite part of the house, which is in the top photo on the right, on the last page at the bottom. That's at the back of the house. There is a door where they could bring the animals in the winter. I don't know why they bring their animals in the winter, but that's what we were told. That's what that door was used for. There's not a lot of room back there, so they either didn't have a lot of animals or they had to pick and choose which ones came in. But
Was there a barn on the site?
there's no barn there now. There might have been at one time. There probably was at one time, but there's nothing there now. So anyway, it's very significant. It should be protected. It's for sale, or there's a sale pending now. The current lady that owned it, she and her daughter came into the history room in June. They were very excited about it. They wanted to do research on it, find out everything we had, and they were thinking of trying to get it on the National Register. And I think it went up for sale when they heard there might be a Costco built across the street, which is unfortunate. But I think we should really look at it and decide, do we want to save our town's heritage buildings, or do we want them to go for progress?
Well, of course.
What are our options?
Pardon me?
What are our options?
This board used to have the ability to designate a building against the owner's wishes, but that was taken away from this board around 2000, and town board took it away, and now they have that ability. So it would have to, if it were going to be designated as a town landmark at this point, it would have to be town board that did that.
Well, why don't we take that as I can't imagine any of us suggesting that we don't want this as a designated site.
It seems reasonable, but if it's not designated, per your conversation, your point earlier with the barn, then we don't have anything to do with it. Is that correct?
We don't have anything
To do with it?
As of right now, no.
for us, but if we, but.
But we can
suggesting-
suggest to the town board that this property is possibly, definitely at risk, and we would like them to exercise their right to get it designated. Of course, our first step would be to approach so the sale is pending, so we can approach the new homeowner, whoever is buying it, ask them if they are willingly able to designate the property. Unfortunately, that is difficult to achieve. So if they say no, we could take it to the town board and ask them to overrule that and designate the property without the homeowner's consent.
So an extension of that might be that we could ask the town board to designate the barn as a historic structure since they own the barn? They wouldn't have to convince themselves?
We can, then we would go through the process of designating the barn.
Is there a point where it would be good to make a motion for that? Does that come from us, or?
It's just if you guys want me to pursue that route, really, it's not something that needs to be voted on.
Well, this board could designate the barn as long as the owners
Well-
weren't objecting to it.
Right, so as long as the town board is okay with designation, because they would make the ultimate decision.
But I'd suggest that what they will want to know the outcome of the committee before they would allow that. But there's no reason we shouldn't keep that in the back of our mind.
How does the committee trump the fact that it's a historical piece of history if we make the recommendation to, I don't know the correct terminology, but to get it registered somewhere, then wouldn't we be in the same position as this house? I'm not following your guys'.
Well, I guess to be blunt, if the answer is we can't afford to fix this thing and it's taken down, and I'm guessing the town would not want to lose that option until all the appropriate work is done through the committee and through budget people, however that happens.
And one reason I wanted to bring this up, I'm not sure if there's a member of town board at this point that knows they have that ability to designate a property, because none of them were around that long ago. So it's just something that they could be made aware of.
I'm happy to write a memo on behalf of the Historic Preservation Board suggesting that we look into the use of that part of our town code and possibly enforce it and designate this property.
And would we be for or against having them add the barn on that same motion, that same request?
I would say we do it separately. I think they're two separate issues.
Okay, makes sense.
I can bring them up at the same time, certainly.
Well, only if other people here agree, that's all.
I would agree. I definitely agree with Tom with what he's saying. I don't see the town agreeing to designate the barn that they own if ultimately they're not going to do anything with it and they're going to take the barn down. Obviously, that's not what so I'm not part of that committee. I'm an advisor to that committee from my daytime job. And it's my understanding the committee wants the barn to be saved. To what extent, after reading the report, that's kind of what they have to decide now and make their recommendation to the town board. But I would say everybody on the committee, I don't think anyone on the committee is going to recommend that the town demolish the barn.
And that's why
It's going to happen by not fixing the roof, so.
Right, and I will say to the roof that you were talking about before on that, it's definitely everyone on that committee was very much the same way that you were, that needs to be taken care of and the town board really needs to make that happen. Otherwise, I mean, although it's not designated, we're looking at kind of a demolition by neglect because we're not doing anything, which wouldn't make any sense after just paying for that report by Torsia to pay for something like that and then just let the building fall in was a very large sum waste of money then, in my opinion. But, so I think at the next meeting with the Clark Road Barn Committee, they're going to be discussing what they want to send to the town board as a recommendation. I think they're just trying to figure out the whole reason that Carmen, right? Carmen Torsia?
Carmen Torsia.
Yeah, the whole reason he's going to come and talk was because the committee had some questions about the report to clarify before they make their recommendation. But it was made very clear, I would say, in that meeting that the roof needs to be taken care of. It was even suggested at one point that they look at doing some type of metal for now to not have a tarp keep wearing away and to protect the building because, through another winter, who knows what's going to happen. So that's been done. So I would agree with Tom. I'm totally on board with you, having Shannon bring that up to the town board, that we would like them to consider designating the barn. I just see them holding that one off until they have a better idea of what's going to happen. Because if we designate it and then it gets demolished, then what? Although, like I said, the intent is not to demolish.
Designating it may help it to avoid being demolished.
Right. I think the kind of the catch-22 one of those, because the town owns it. I think that's the main thing, is I would want it designated. If we could vote on it, I would say yes to it right now. I think it's going to be hard to get the town to do that until they have a better idea of what's happening with the building, just because they own it. So then they're prohibiting themselves from demolition, is what would happen. And while I'm on board with that, I don't know that the town board is on board with that. But I do think, I would definitely, if the rest of you agree, I would like the town board to consider designating, or maybe, like you said, go to the property owner first, designating this home.
I think we have to
No,
ask the property owner
I'm feeling a lot
first.
more urgency with respect to the house. We need to do something there.
Yes, we have
Yeah.
to check with them first, because if they voluntarily are willing to designate it, then this is
Yeah.
all taken care of.
So one question I have for that is, you said the sale is pending.
Yes.
So if we right now were to, I don't mean this second, but right now
Yes.
we're to ask, technically the ask would go to the current owner, correct?
Correct.
And they would likely be for it, because it sounds like they're very interested in the history
Right,
and
and they
want
don't
it
want
protected.
That's
anything to
right. They
happen
were
to 'em.
thinking of going for national register, so.
Right,
And of course, the issue there is that if that happens, it could reduce the sales price. for-
Right, it
for the
could.
Someone
building.
could back out
But
of the
I think
sale.
that's
Right.
certainly worth the effort to try to get to the current owners. And I'm happy to do that with Shannon. I think we need to act pretty quickly on this one.
Yes.
I would have brought this up last month, I intended to, but I was out with COVID, and I didn't think any of you wanted me here.
All right, can we have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, wait, hold on, sorry.
Nope.
One more thing, I handed out the 2025 schedule to everyone. It is, take it with a grain of salt, things can always change. But as of right now, all of our meetings are on the first Thursday of the month, as we normally have them, at 5:30 here in the auditorium. And that will be posted on the website as well.
I move to adjourn.
In a second?
Are we going to do the executive session?
Yes.
Okay,
Need a second on adjourning?
I'll second.
In a second? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.